Alright, so we're gonna do something a little bit different tonight. I got me a box of MSD universal 4-cylinder wires. And why did I do this? Well, because I've been pretty curious on how to make my own wires. And what better way to figure out than to buy your own and try it out. So this is the MSD 4-cylinder wire kit, like I said. And the part number is right there. 31153, 4-cylinder black universal. Now, you might be wondering, why don't I just buy a MIATA specific MSD wire? Well, because they're all freaking red and I wanted black. And also I wanted to learn how to do it. So if you don't have a MIATA and you're trying to make your own MSD wires, this applies as well. So what comes in a kit? I'm just gonna tell you right now that I've already made 3 of these just to see how it is before I shot the video, because, you know, I don't want to shoot a video and not know what the heck I'm doing. So the kit will come with 4 of these. This is a universal size, so they come in different lengths, but it's long enough for most of your 4 cylinders. Now, if you have an 8-cylinder, it'll obviously come with 8 of these, or if you have a 10, whatever. And then these things are long enough for most applications, and you know, I'm using this for MIATA, so this fits. And then it also comes with different boots right there. Now, FYI, they don't come messy like this. This is just because I kind of just put it all over the place. So if you're using this for like an import, this will be the popper boot right here. And if you're using this for anything other than the new stuff, you'll be using the old school version, this. Or some cars will actually use this, some modern cars, but I doubt most of you guys will be using that. So these are the terminals that you can use with the boots. This one will go with this guy right here, like so. And right here, that crease, that's where you you bend to make that 90 to match this profile. Then you crimp right here. This is like the double crimp style. So you crimp right here on the bottom and you crimp up here, kind of off, out of focus there real quick, but let me zoom in right there. See that double crimp, one in the middle, one on the left side? That goes with this setup right here. So depending on what kind of coil you're using, you might be using this or this. It really doesn't matter. What I'm going to show you today is what's applicable for most imports and 4-cylinders and MIATAs and whatever that uses this type of boot. So let's get it going. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take one wire and we're gonna measure it. So how I do this, it's pretty simple. Anyone can do it. Basically back here, I take this guy and I insert it into whatever spark plug hole that I need to measure from, right? So I'm gonna put this guy right here, and then I just swing it back and I basically line it up with the spark plug boot. So when I measure, I don't measure up to the back right there. I actually measure all the way out to the front of the boot, like so. So if you're looking at it from the top, it looks like that. I don't measure from here. You will be short, just FYI. Now you take your boot, right? And you pop it in wherever you need to measure. So this, I need to measure all the way to the right side right here on the coil. There's already 1, 2, 3, 4 there. So I take this guy like so, and then I just kind of swing it back. And this is already pressed all the way down to the spark plug. And then I measure to the tip of the boot, like so. Okay. And kind of want to see how all these wires are routed. Okay, so that's good. Now it needs to be about that long. See that? So now we take it out and then we go cut it. All right, so on the table here, we got our wire. This is where we're gonna need to cut it. The next thing you wanna do is you wanna add about 16 millimeters from your measurement. So add 16 more millimeters, right? And then cut it there. I'll show you why in a minute here. You can cut this with any type of shears or whatever. I just use this gasket scraper actually, just a blade. So just cut it straight, point it down, right? Rock it back and forth. Just make sure you have a clean cut. Doesn't matter what you use to cut this, whatever makes you happy. Just make sure it is a clean cut. Okay, there you go. All right, here's that cut up close. Does it really matter how clean this is? Yeah, I think it does. Some people might not care because it's hidden, but you want to make sure that this is perfectly clean. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use this MSD crimper, and it's basically a multi-freaking tool because it's a crimper, and it also it's like a jig for where you cut your wires. So if you plop this on here, you can see that it fits perfectly in there. And if you look at it sideways right here, this is covered halfway, but then the other side, the other half is open. That's because when you strip the wire, you can put this tool right over it, like so. So you put this tool right over it, or the cutter, and it won't cut through the wire. See that? It only goes deep enough to cut the silicone coating. So I'll show you with that with a spare wire right here on the ground. So the spare wire on the ground, what you do is you basically insert it here, right? You insert it. Now, if you're doing the double crimp, like with these boots or whatever, or this terminal, actually, this terminal. See this? This is a double crimp. The double crimp, you're supposed to stop at the first little notch. See that little notch up here? That's the first notch. But we're doing the other style coil, so we're gonna go all the way. This is like the single crimp. And then what you do is you take your favorite blade, whatever it may be. This is just a regular box cutter. And you press down like so, right here. See that? You press down and you just kind of hold it there, right? Nice and flat. Don't do that. It's kind of hard to show the camera as I'm doing this at the same time. So there you go, hold it flat, right? And then what you want to do is you just want to rotate. As you rotate this, it's going to cut around, all right? Make sure you don't slide back and forth, but there it is. Now you just twist this and you peel. Ish. Yeah, you may need to twist a little bit more, but there you go. See that? There's your wire. So this is exactly why I told you to add 16 millimeters, because this is going to be folded down like so. All right? So now you're back to your original measurement. So this is what's going to happen right here. All right, so these are the connectors right here. So what you want to do is you want to give these things a slight bend right here, 90 degrees. So if you read the manual right here, like everyone should, the manual says you need to have this U shape. See that? Terminal size, and you can kind of, that's actual size, so you could put the terminal right beside it. So you need to have a U bend right there, 90 degrees. All right, so what I like to do is I get my needle nose, I go in like this, and I just push on it until it's 90 degrees. See that? Boom, 90. You wanna do that to both sides. So you wanna make sure that it's completely flat. You don't want to bend these at an angle because it needs to be somewhat leveled. So there you go. We got our 90s. See that? Cool. Now, what you want to do is you want to get your wire, right? You bend this over like so, all right? And then you just slide it in. Voila. All right, so from this edge to the edge of the silicone should be about 3.17 millimeters, so I think 1/8 of an inch. So just make sure that you measure from here to here, that it's 1/8 of an inch. It requires that because, I don't know, it's just something about the gripping when you crimp it. But just make sure that from here to here is, 3.17 or 3.15 or a minimum of 3 millimeters or 1/8. Okay? So now we take the tool, the MSD tool right here. This is the metal side right here. So what you want to do is you want to have these prongs facing in, right? I just put it in the middle. Does it matter where you put it? I have no idea, but it just makes sense to just put it in the middle to have the forces distributed evenly, I think. Who knows? All right, so it's on there. Then we just put it together like so. All right. So what happens when you put this in the vise will basically crush this, and it'll crush the prongs and crimps the wire. Now these things right here, see this? This is important to remember. This and this goes on top of the vise so it stops. It doesn't just slide through. So let's go to the vise and I'll show you how this works. All right, so we got our assembly right here and we got our vise right here. This is a 6-inch vise, so it doesn't really matter where you put it. I'd like to put it on the middle of the vise right here so I can get an even crimp. Not that if you put it on the corner, it'll get an uneven crimp, but who knows. So I'm gonna put it right here, like so. All right, as you can see, the little tangs right here keeps it from falling straight down. So the trick here is you don't want to over crush the crimp. You want to do it slow and you just kind of feel it. You look at it, all right, take it apart and you look at it after. Okay, now if you look closely here, that's a pretty solid crimp. All right, tug it, ain't going nowhere. All right, you don't need to crush it more than that, because if you do, you're gonna end up screwing it up. And it even says on the manual, do not over crimp it, because you can. You don't necessarily have to, this tool right here, you don't necessarily have to bottom it out. You see how that bottoms out? When I crimp, it actually stops right about there, that kind of gap. See that kind of gap right there? It's kind of like that. Don't go any more than that because you're going to end up crushing it too much. All right, so the next step, once you have this guy done up, you want to get some dielectrical grease. I got this from Loctite. All right, I'm going to take some grease, put some over the terminal right here. I'll show you why in a moment here. Just get yourself dielectrical grease. All right, put it over the terminal like so. Then get whatever boot that you're gonna use. I'm gonna use this guy. And get some dielectrical grease in here. All right, put a little bit inside here as well. Not too much, all right, just enough, not too much. Okay, you put too much, it's not gonna kill it, but still it's just gonna make a mess. All right, then you take your wire that you just made, stick it in here, nice and slowly. You don't want to rip any of the silicone, and then you just kind of angle this and push it through. If you don't have dielectrical grease, this is going to be a nightmare. And if you were saying, oh, I could just use oil, well, oil will dry up on the silicone, so just FYI. Okay, there you go. You just put it halfway like so. Okay, get another tug on here, make sure it's good. Okay, it looks good. Now, next thing, since this is a 90-degree boot, we're gonna need this terminal to be 90 degrees, obviously. But if you try to do this by hand, it's a freaking beast, right? So what I like to do is go back to the crimper, right? Now, what I wanna do is I wanna take this and I'm just gonna put it at the very edge, right here. Okay, very edge, and then see where this crease is? right? I'm gonna line that up right at the edge. And then I'm gonna put everything back together into the vise. All right? Now, for the sake of just seeing how I do this, I'm just gonna put it this way. It's not gonna matter, we don't need to crimp this anyway, so. Okay, good. So now that it's on the vise, all you have to do is press it with your thumbs. Pew. See that? And dunsies. Now, when you're actually making these, you'll know how hard it is. It's a freaking beast, man. Like, I try to do it with like a needle nose, and I try to do it with, I don't know, all sorts of tools, and I'm like, this is kind of hard. Okay, so that's nice and solid. Sorry for the camera's kind of hunting. There you go. That looks good. See that? 90 degrees. Now all you have to do, finish it up. You take this and you pull it through. If you don't have dielectrical grease, I'm saying it's gonna be bad. All right, get this guy, pull him all the way through. Okay, and that's it. You have yourself a spark plug wire. Dun dun dun. Now, what you want to do before you put all this stuff together in the car, you want to get some dielectrical grease. Again, why do I use dielectrical grease? Well, dielectrical grease, most people don't know what it's for. Car guys do. Car guys know what this is for. It basically waterproofs your wires or your electrical system. So if you have an issue with like a harness not being sealed, get some dielectrical grease. Especially for your battery terminals, dielectrical grease is a freaking savior. You don't get all that white stuff, the white dried up looking salty thing around, you know, the corrosion around your battery terminals. The bad thing is it attracts all sorts of dirt, so it looks like poop after a while. Then just add a little bit more around here and then wiggle it around, make sure that it's not too much. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Last thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit because I don't want the MSD writing on here, because I want like a cleaner look. So what you do is just get brake cleaner, like so, and then nothing against you, MSD. I love your stuff. It's just this car needs plain Jane, baby, plain Jane. See that? So it just comes right off. I'm putting moderate pressure on here to really take this stuff off. It doesn't just fall apart like, oh my gosh, the paint's just cheap. No, you gotta really put pressure to take this stuff off. Okay? Then once you're done, give it a nice wipe down with whatever cleaner you want. I have brake cleaner on this rag already, so I'm just gonna use brake cleaner. Not that it matters. Silicone's pretty tough stuff, so it doesn't get jacked up by brake cleaner. Okay, and there you go. You got a nice clean wire. Now let's go install it. Right, here's the final product. Spark plug cover's back on, and you can see over here the spark plugs aren't bunched up. The wires aren't too long. The problem with the pre-cut MIATA stuff, the stuff that you just buy at AutoZone or Racing Beat or whatever, they're a little bit long. They're made long because you know, they need to fit different cars and whatnot, and sometimes 1/6 and 1/8, and they're made to just, you know, simplify things. With the setup I just did right now, I had it lengthed exactly to what I need. The tricky thing is, you see right here, there's a coil spacer on here. It's hard to see, but with the Project G spark plug covers, I actually needed to add a 1/2-inch spacer on the coil packs, so it moves it closer to the firewall, and that's why I needed to create my own custom length wires. As you can see right there, nice and perfect. I used to have red wires, and it looked kind of funny because, you know, I have way too many colors going on here. And the last thing I want to add to the engine is red, because the car's already red, right? So some people might say, well, why didn't you get black? Well, MSD actually, they don't offer black boots. And it's not too bad because on the right, see that cam angle sensor? All the pigtails and stuff's gray, so it matches and it looks all right. I don't mind it. As you can see right there, it blends right in. So there you go. Thanks for watching.